Dave, founder of Halloween Year Round, and today I'm talking about the new Shudder exclusive movie Little Bites, written and directed by Spider One, a musician turned filmmaker who also happens to be Rob Zombie's little brother. This is a movie with a very simple premise, very simple setup. Most of it works. I'm going to keep this as spoiler free as I can. Let's jump into, or sink our teeth into, Little Bites.
You underestimating me.
Mom!
No need to be afraid.
We're introduced to this woman played by Chrissy Fox, who has a 10-year-old daughter that she has living with her mother while she's kind of dealing with some stuff. And by some stuff, I mean a vampire living in her house slowly feeding upon her. So, in order to keep her 10-year-old daughter safe, she has the girl living with her grandmother temporarily. Admittedly, plot wise, it's very Hellraiser in that you have this monstrous thing living in a house that requires food, and we see this character, kind of go out and seek people to appease it. All the while, she's trying to get her own life together. She's fending off CPS agents played by Barbara Crampton, getting sage advice from people played by Heather Langenkamp, and trying to reconnect with her daughter and also kind of reconcile her relationship with her own mother, played by Bonnie Aarons. Lot of great horror, royalty here in these little bit parts. The movie itself, I think the premise is greater than the execution. And what I mean by that is I really, really like the concept here of this, uh, parasitic relationship that the vampire has with her, the level of control it has. There's some not so thinly veiled metaphors and allegories that the vampire represents her own grief and guilt after the loss of her husband. I know the horror is trauma metaphor trope is becoming cliched, but I think horror represents, our own fears and anxieties. And this movie, again, with its very simple but effective premise, explores that in a really interesting way. The only thing I didn't really like is I feel like it could have gone even further with it and it could have done more with it. As far as just pacing goes, it's an hour 45. It feels a little bit longer than it is because you're kind of waiting for something to happen. And not that nothing ever does, but it's just it feels like it's trying to run out its own runtime. It feels like it's trying to run out the clock. And there's a lot you could be doing with this premise. There's a lot of things that could be happening that just aren't. That being said, I love the vampire in this. He is so incredibly creepy, and I'm not even exaggerating. He's up there with Nosferatu, but less over the top, more kind of calm, quiet, creepy, dare I say subtle. He's played by John Sklarov, a character actor that you've probably seen in something. He has quite the filmography, but I love just how he doesn't need to come out and be scary. He doesn't need to yell, he doesn't need to scream, he doesn't need to be over the top. There's just this confidence to him, like he is evil and he knows that he controls this woman's life, and he just kind of relishes it. He's like, "No, you're going to do what I tell you to do, and you're not even worth me getting worked up over." Which again, I think really plays into everything the movie is doing, both as, a metaphor for guilt, but also in a lot of ways, the fears and anxieties of parenting. She feels like she can't have her own daughter there because it's not safe. And for a while, you're not sure what's real and what's not, what's in her head, what's really happening, what is supernatural, and what is psychosis. All that being said, none of us are dealing with vampires in our houses. I would hope not. But we certainly all have those fears that our own shortcomings, our own flaws, the mistakes our parents made with us, we will then perpetuate. And if we don't make the same mistakes, we'll make new mistakes. And that it's our sort of I'm not good enough for my child. And that point really is driven home here and hits close to home for myself and anyone else who is a parent. So Again, I love what it's doing. There's a lot that I really like about this movie. I just wish it was paced a little faster and a little more happened. But again, I know it's an indie movie. I know it's low budget, and I don't necessarily want to hold that against it. But hey, these are just my thoughts. This is my review. Let me know in the comments, what did you think of Little Bites? It is streaming on Shutter right now. Like, share, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff. If you don't, you may end up with a creepy squatter vampire in your house who doesn't leave you alone and makes you feed them guests and uninvited government representatives who are just looking out for the well being and welfare of children. And as always, every day is Halloween.